Ladies and gentlemen, my special guest today to celebrate Hanukkah in style is the one and only Rabbi Moshe Friedman. Moshe, how are you doing?
Doing great. Rabbi Yoni, thank you for having me.
It's very special to speak to you. We have been meeting people with fascinating careers, and today we're meeting the outreach rabbi. Rabbi Moshe works for the Forum of Jewish Leadership. For those of you who are not aware what that is, Rabbi Moshe is going to tell us a little bit more, but it's an incredibly ambitious and engaging organization that tries to cultivate strong leadership amongst our younger generation. Moshe, tell us a little about your background, about your work, and about who you are.
Okay, well, that's a pretty open-ended question, but we'll start from the particulars and go to the universal, I guess. So as you said, right now I am and have been working for the Forum for Jewish Leadership. I'm kind of heading up the UK branch. It's gone international in the past few years. But it started here in the UK as a response to a growing need for high-minded, intellectual Jewish education amongst the, let's call it the academic elite of Britain's Jewish students. So most of our participants come from Oxford and Cambridge, but we have a wide-ranging number of universities that participate in our programs. And the idea is to challenge them with really very high-minded content. You know, there are plenty of people who may not have grown up with a strong formal Jewish education, but they have the minds of very sophisticated people. And so you can't teach them Aleph Beis and, and hope that they're going to be inspired by that. The little stories that we all learned when we were 8 years old just don't do it anymore. So you have to be able to translate the phenomenally complex ideas that are found in the Torah and to be able to present those and allow people to challenge themselves with it because they have the mind for it. So that's what we're trying to do. And of course, that comes into a position of responsibility, that if a person is that bright and that capable, they should be doing something to give back and to contribute to the Jewish community. So that's where the leadership aspect comes in. It's not just enough to intellectually stimulate yourself. We're more than just a floating brain. We have a heart, we have a body. We have to go out there and impact the world as well.
So in a certain sense, you are creating the leaders of tomorrow. The high-flying academics and powerful brains of the Jewish world are going to have that foundation to enable them to go out and make a huge difference to the Jewish world and beyond. So kol hakavod to you. We actually partnered with you guys a couple of years ago here in St. John's Wood, where we hosted you for a Shabbaton. It was really memorable, and we thoroughly enjoyed that. Now, if you could tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from, and just Moshe Friedman in 30 seconds.
30 seconds. There's a lot to fit in. I was raised in New York City, in Manhattan itself, went to a very top private school, not Jewish, went on to the University of Pennsylvania. And then after I had this incredibly, the highest level of secular academic education, I decided that there was something missing in all of that. And after a long exploration of various religions and philosophies through my university career, I ended up going to Israel, and what started as 1 year turned into 10 years, and decided basically after a year and a half that I wanted to go be a rabbi, and so here I am. Wow. I'm now teaching. I'm learning and disseminating the beautiful ideas that I've heard, and trying to find lots and lots of different and new creative outlets to be able to share the phenomenal wisdom that's inside of our tradition.
Now, there's a hidden talent that you have, which perhaps is not so hidden because you've subsequently gone viral. Moshe, for those people who don't know, you are a rapper as well as a rabbi. Tell us about that.
Although I hesitate to call myself the rapping rabbi because that sounds a little bit cheesy, and I'm trying to distance myself from the corny rapping rabbi persona. But yeah, in the years of a misspent youth, I spent quite a lot of time listening to rap music. I don't recommend that you try this at home. But I was always fascinated by the medium of rap music. Rap is something that started as a way to give a voice to a group of people in the United States that did not have a voice in society. And so they found that they could deliver extremely powerful messages through a genre where you're able to include many more words than you would in a normal song. And the rhythm and the flow and the punchlines make it so that your message becomes even more impactful. So I thought that the medium itself was unbelievably powerful. And especially for Jews, where we love speaking and our ideas are incredibly complex, and it's very, very difficult to boil it down to something, only with 20, 30 words that you would normally have in a usual song. The medium of rap is a phenomenal way to be able to include very deep ideas that you wouldn't normally be able to put into music. And I've found that there's been an unbelievable response from young people who would never be caught dead sitting through a long Torah lecture, but they will rock on to Jewish music if it's done in a way that's current and relatable.
Well, talking about current and relatable, I want to share with our audience your sensational Hanukkah track, which has just come out. Ladies and gentlemen, watch this.
One more than the night before. When darkness comes, we raise our torch and light one more. One more, one more.
It's kinda hard to be an optimist when the future looks as lost as this. Mama always said life is like a box of chocolates, but this praline tastes like apocalypse. A lot of friction in the system, gotta have a thick skin to resist it. Swim like the fish swim, always going upstream when the truth kicks in to try to crush a young dream. But I'ma come clean, these threats are not fooling me. Where some see problems, I see opportunity. We face violence and hostile climates, but pain becomes power and pressure makes diamonds. I will keep climbing higher, even when the darkness in my eyes like blinders. Give me one tiny flame to ignite the change, and that's how you find your fire.
We always light one more than the night before. When darkness comes, we raise our torch and light one more. One more, one more. We always light one more than the night before. For 8 nights, we know what we're fighting for. One more, one more.
The whole world is telling you that you aren't man enough. Don't take it sitting down, fight it while you're standing up. Nights getting too dark, light another candle up. Light another candle up, light another candle up. The globe's always turning in motion, it's getting faster, not slowing. You better know where you're going, you're either dying or growing. No looking backwards and moaning, only way out now is forward. Rolling, glowing, overflowing, go till your heart is exploding. Let me break it down fast and sure. In these dark times, there's only one lasting cure. Find your oil, find your fuel, whatever moves you. Just make sure the flask is pure, then let the fire burn slow. Don't worry if supply runs low. Through it all, do you believe it yet? Miracles happen where you least expect.
We always light one more than the night before. When darkness comes, we raise our torch and light one more. One more, one more. We always light one more than the night before. For 8 nights, we know what we're fighting for. One more, one more. Light one more.
8 nights, great heights, lift off, take flight.
More than the night before.
Glow on so strong.
One more, one more. When your flame is pure.
Unite, do right, no, never lose sight.
You know what you're fighting for.
Break steel, stay real to the way you feel.
One more than the night before. When darkness comes, we raise our torch and light one more. One more, one more. One more than the night before. For 8 nights, we know what we're fighting for. We always light one more than the night before. When darkness comes, we raise our torch and light one more. One more, one more. We always light one more than the night before. For 8 nights, we know what we're fighting for. One more, one more. Light one more.
8 nights, great heights, lift off, take flight.
More than the night before.
Glow on so strong.
One more, one more. When your flame is pure.
Unite, do right, no, never lose sight.
You remember what you're fighting for. One more, one more.
Wow, that was quite a song. That's quite amazing. Tell us a little bit about the lyrics and the production and how that came about. And I'm sure this has gone hugely viral across the world.
So, yeah, so we've been looking for kind of a fresh new way to be able to disseminate really deep ideas. And it sounds cliched now, but one night the words just came to me, light one more than the night before. And it could, it has to do with the idea that in the Talmud, it's recorded a very famous dispute between the house of Shammai and the house of Hillel. What's the appropriate way to light a menorah? Do you start with one candle the first day and 2 candles the second day, which is obviously the way that we do it? And that was the opinion of the house of Hillel. But little known is the opinion of the house of Shammai, which says you start from 8 on the first night and go down to 1. And there is something very powerful about saying we are always going upwards, we're always looking forward, and always counting up and accumulating everything that we've done so far, and say, look how far we've come, so that by the time you get to the 8th night, it includes every night before. So we went with that theme, quickly wrote up some lyrics. This was all in the space of about, I think I wrote this about a month ago, a month before Hanukkah. I found some very talented, dedicated, passionate people who really saw a lot of potential in this. We partnered with an unbelievably talented young 14-year-old named Yoni Shine, who is the voice in the song. He's the singer in the song. And
his dad, Danny Shine, sang at my bar mitzvah. Very musical family.
Wow. Okay.
And his mom is the legend behind Gift, and his big brother was in my class in JFS. So fantastic family. Special.
Yeah. So you can tell they're really special people. But that was what happened, and a lot of things just fell into place. The song was produced by a Grammy-winning producer. It was mixed in Abbey Road. It was mastered in Abbey Road Studios. So that a lot of people got behind this, and it really just took off.
Rabbi Moshe, when you just explained to me the lyrics of your beautiful song, it reminded me of a beautiful idea that I heard from Rabbi Lord Sachs, when he describes this very machlokas about how we light the Hanukkah candles. And he compares it to this idea of 2 different types of Jews, both of whom are committed to their Jewish life. One says, I can't get involved with Jews who are less religious than me, because if I do, my own standards will fall. I'll keep less. My lights will be diminished. And that was the view of Rav. And the other one says, no, when I use my flame to light a candle in somebody else's life, my Jewishness is not diminished, it grows. Because there's now more Jewish light in the world. And when it comes to spiritual goods, as opposed to material goods, the more I share, the more I have. The more knowledge, the more love, the more faith that we share with other people. It's never halved, it's doubled. And I think that's really what you're doing here. You're sharing this kind of passion for Judaism, which really brings me on to my next question. I think we share a commonality. We are both looking for ways to reach out to disenfranchised Jews, for people who are not so connected to their faith, perhaps to millennials as well, to a younger generation of Jews. Millennials is the term we use to describe people who are reaching young adulthood in the 21st century, and sometimes they feel disconnected with their Judaism. Could you share with us your tips for both educators and parents of younger Jews, and for younger Jews themselves, to try and tap into the beauty of Judaism in the way that you did in your Ivy League school, over 10 years ago?
Yeah, well, I definitely can say that as somebody who is technically a millennial myself, I can definitely get inside the mindset of a millennial. Although now there's a whole new generation, right? Gen Z or Gen Z, right? Which is people supposedly born after 1995. But there is a lot connecting these two. There's a lot of research that suggests that they are perhaps the 2 least religiously affiliated generations in history, period, in recorded history. And the question is, well, what are we failing to give to them? And I think that a lot of that comes from an understanding of what type of society that they're living in. One of the big issues is that we live in a highly individualistic and extremely personalized and tailored type of reality, where everything is customizable and you can choose exactly what you see on your Facebook feed. So because that's true, I have complete control over how I spend my time and what I involve myself in. It makes it extremely difficult to fit myself to something that seems like a one-size-fits-all type of religion, right? To say, oh, I have to participate in this big thing. And especially it's something that if I don't have patience, from the outside, it looks boring, it looks unapproachable, it looks inaccessible. So one way to deal with this is to say, you kids, you don't have patience anymore, you don't have humility anymore, so I'm done with you. But obviously, we have an obligation to try to speak to people who live in that type of world. And so as a result, one thing that you may have to do, and I think there's good precedent for this, is that you have to find a way to make Torah beautiful immediately. And there is a way to do that. There certainly is. And it could be that perhaps if you start that way and you start to capture people with something that really does speak their language, they'd say, okay, that's interesting, tell me more. And then oftentimes you'll find that people do have a lot more attention for the things that they care about. I mean, there's a reason why Joe Rogan makes a 3-hour podcast and has millions of people listening. These people have attention spans. It's just that first you have to get them interested. And so we have to stop pretending like, there's this idea that quote unquote, the Torah sells itself. And while I agree to a certain extent that you don't have to go making new things up or fabricating ideas, you do have a real obligation, and it's a very, very serious thing to try to understand how you're going to package that Torah. There is a story about how Rabbi Dessler, the famous rabbi who spent time up in Gateshead and then moved to the land of Israel after World War II, it said he spent something like 3 hours learning the sources, and then 3 hours trying to figure out how to put it together with source sheets and everything, and then another 3 hours trying to figure out how to deliver it to his students. So it's its own separate work to make sure that the delivery is befitting of the content that you're giving over.
Totally. There's a beautiful Dvar Torah from Dayan Abramsky, who was a Dayan on the London Bet Din many, many years ago. And in Parshas Ba'aloscha, the Torah describes all the various utensils in the Mishkan. And these utensils were passed on from generation to generation over many centuries, with the exception of the chatzotzros, the trumpets. The trumpets had to be recrafted for each and every generation. And Dayan Abramsky says, why was that the case? Because the trumpets are the methods of communication. And the methods of communication change. And therefore we, as a younger generation of Rabbonim, we need to try and find that way to be that conduit to make Judaism accessible for those people who are growing up in today's age. And I think that's really what I'm trying to do with my interviews, what you're trying to do with your rapping. Perhaps, if all else fails, we could create a late night TV show. You could do the music, I could do the interviews. I think we could have something good going on.
Fantastic. The first Jewish variety show. I love it.
Let's do it. But this has been a real pleasure, a real insight. And, I want to just conclude and say, I was tremendously inspired by your video clip that you put out several months ago in reaction to the abhorrent anti-Semitism of the rapper Wiley. And you came out with this rap, which I'm going to conclude and share with everybody. And your message there was, again, tapping into that very issue that people were feeling angry about at that correct moment. And I think that's why the clip went viral. I don't know how many views you had, I think over 100,000 as a result. But kol hakavod to you. Perhaps just before I play the clip, you could just share with us what motivated you to do that.
Well, it's something that lent itself really to the time and the place. Wiley, after all, is a rapper, and so I was kind of playing on his turf, so to speak. And I think it's exactly as you've said, which is that oftentimes somebody comes out with something on social media and it's so broad, right? The broadcast is the reach is so wide, and there are so many different responses and reactions to when somebody does that. And one way to respond could be a Twitter mob, it could be outrage, it could be saying, cancel Wiley, do this to that, or this to him, or that to him. We've definitely seen this terrible trend of ganging up on people and using all these, the disparate voices across the internet to try to force people to do things. And I really don't think that that's the healthy response. I think the healthiest response is to say, look, if I can get a platform and show that your message is misguided, it's wrong, but we should further the conversation, then that's really the healthy way to channel that anger and that resentment. It should not end in anger. It should end in empathy. It should end in perhaps pity, in perhaps making sure that we have a strong voice as well. But we have to try to, we have an obligation not to say, oh, Twitter is terrible and Facebook is terrible and YouTube is terrible. You're screaming at clouds. You're not doing anything by doing that. Rather say,
do you know if Wiley saw your rap?
I can't say I know if he's seen it. I don't know if he's seen it.
Who cares? Who cares anyway? We also saw it and we thought it was fantastic.
It's 2020 and I'm facing the truth, cause racial abuse is still making the news. Some British rapper full of hate tweeting dangerous views. Makes me wonder if there's any safe space for the Jews. You say it's isolated, try to make an excuse, but this isn't the first time we've been blamed and accused. Might not be my place to intrude, but if I don't, then who will? Let me educate for a few. They say we own the banks like we rollin' diamonds, that we also run the law, vast global alliance, Israeli Illuminati protocols of Zion, and the more we deny it only shows we're lying. But those are lies and fake quotes. I suggest you let the hate go. History lesson in session, better take notes. As far as pain goes, Jewish people are the main show. Sounds insane, but I don't make jokes. Every country made us scapegoats, where they give them all the blame, folks, where they put them all to shame, folks. Kicked us out without so much as a raincoat. Expelled from Rome, expelled from England. Don't forget France, Portugal, and Spain, though, hoping that we get a chance to claim home. Instead they sent us where those Auschwitz trains go. That's why we put our foot down and we say no. When you say we own all of the banknotes, here you're using all the same tropes that our enemies shared. They call us touchy like we don't get to be scared, but we've had enough accusations of heresy, conspiracy. Finally this time we're better prepared. So when even one Jew is threatened, we care, cause we all know we got a destiny shared. And you know what? A lot of us do prosper, finance, lawyers, and Jewish doctors, cause we value hard work and we do it proper. Not saying that you don't, but don't call us imposters. You can't pretend we were all born privileged and weak skinned when our grandparents grew up in the East End, kept the Sabbath so they got fired every weekend. Finally making ends meet, now they're swimming in the deep end. Success is Jewish revenge. So next time think twice before you tweet in a bunch of lies you can't defend. And since when is ambition a crime? We were hoping things could be different this time, but you're proof anti-Semitism's alive. I heard your rant, I hope you listen to mine.
Moshe Friedman, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure, and I wish you ongoing success. And what's next? What's next for you?
Oh boy, what's next is, well, once the dust settles on this Hanukkah video, we're going to try to figure out how to keep going from here, and to make sure that with the music is connected the deep ideas that go along with the music, which of course is why if you go to the music video, you'll be able to see that we've put out a couple of lyric breakdown videos to be able to explain the deeper ideas behind the lyrics. And that's really what the bigger picture is to say, how can we take music and make it more than just something you listen to while you exercise? How can we make it a transformative experience that is a portal to some deeper ideas?
Kol hakavod. To everyone watching this, make sure you subscribe to Rav Mo's YouTube channel. Make sure you watch his videos, share his videos, and of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Thanks so much, and happy Hanukkah to everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi Yoni. Happy Hanukkah.